The idea again is that it takes a lot for us to pull Silo Park together, and it's really important that in terms of, again, programming for different groups, Matariki is a really great opportunity to do so because we see it as New Zealand's leading Indigenous festival, full stop. And the Indigenous culture in New Zealand is realistically our defining aspect of our culture in terms of, like, name for me some New Zealand food, New Zealand dance, New Zealand historical culture. Like, realistically, those things will always point back to the Indigenous Māori community. And so why not celebrate those things? And so we use an existing really popular platform, Silo Park, and its programming, to bring attention to these things. It's Queen Street Christmas lights. Again, we work in like installation as much as anything else. This was at Smells Farm. It's just a cute picture of some kids. This was Stella, which was the Matariki Festival celebration, which was a lights trail. This is Silo Park Markets. This is another thing that we do. So we use food. We use food a lot to connect people because people connect over food. This is Food Space. We just launched this. It's an online directory of mobile food vendors. So the idea is that if you want to find street food, or if you want to find mobile food, or if you want to apply something to an area that doesn't have anything that might work to bring people together, we'll bring food. We're having our Food Space launch on this Saturday from 11 till 10 on Doherty Street. There'll be like 20 food vendors. You can come if you want. This was how I had structured this initially. I was going to talk about projects briefly, but I feel like we've got into it. But placemaking, which is the point of why I'm supposed to be talking to you anyway. So placemaking is all of these things: planning, design and management of public spaces, right? Building connections between people through a space, transforming underused space for the benefit of the community, creating a strategic and sustainable platform for long-term use. But mostly it's this one, and I love this one, it's the difference between a house and a home. So space versus place. Space is, Silo Park is an area. Place is, oh man, Silo Park is awesome, I love that space. Oh, Britamart's so great, I love going down there and hanging out under the fairy lights, and I'll bring my friends down when they come visiting Auckland. That's place. Why do you want to go to those places? Is it because they look cool? Is it because they feel cool? Is it because there's cool stuff happening? Is it because you feel like there's really relevant cultural or political themes to it? Whatever that may be, place is where we work. And so this is the whole point of my conversation today, is that events are a tool we use in placemaking, and the skills and knowledge that you learn in events and PR and comms and all of those areas that our whole team came from can be used and applied in placemaking. You bring all that expertise to what we do, and you use it for good. You use it to bring humans together. You use it to reconnect people in a way that hasn't happened unfortunately, for generations. And an important part of that, which I like to argue with people a lot, I'm always having arguments with people about this, or debates if we'll call them to make them sound positive, but we say that humans have lost the ability to connect because of digital tools, right? Oh man, I'm always on my phone. But I disagree with that. I'm like, why not use your phone as a way to connect with people? And why not celebrate those digital tools that we have or use them to broaden the conversation? So, example, Silo Park. 40,000 people on Facebook. There is no way that we have 40,000 people come down to Silo Park on a day, because it's just unfeasible. It's ridiculous. They'll all be in the water. But there's 40,000 people that can engage with what we're doing. That's 40,000 people who can have the conversation about the things that are happening down there. That's then their friends, and then their friends, and their friends, and it's all of those things. And yeah, okay, it's relatively ego-driven to say, yeah, cool, we got this massive audience on Facebook, and how cool are we, and how good did we do, and all of those things. But all of those people are not numbers. They are human beings, and they are people who want to connect with the idea. And yes, some of them are like brands and spam accounts and those things, but for the most part, there are people that are interested in what is happening. Just like 13 million views on YouTube for some clip of a cat. Those are people behind those counts. And how do we engage those people? How do we connect with those people and use what it is that they're interested in to develop something wider and to have a bigger conversation? So the interesting thing about placemaking, creative placemaking, write that down and look it up, because it's pretty confusing, actually. And this is part of the reason. There is no set methodology. So you can't open up the placemaker's handbook and go, alright, step 1, do this, step 2, do that. It's not, there's no answer to the problems or to the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. It's all realistically trial and error, and it's all trying to do things. And we've got some good ideas of what works and what doesn't, but there's no set formula. There's not like, alright, if you bring X, Y and Z together, then the people will leave with a sense of joy, because that would be far too easy, and there wouldn't need to be 5 of us, or 10 of us, or 40 of us on a project, right? But how we do it, the idea is that we work with the space. So it always starts with space. A physical area or a digital area. But a physical area, you use that as the platform to connect the people. Consider the community, be that existing or aspirational. And the reason I included the word aspirational is like Hobsonville Point, right? They're going to have 2,500 houses built there between now and 2020. 2,500 houses, that's 2,500 households. It's not 2,500 people, like that's heaps of people. But not yet, they only got 200 houses built or something, and they've got like 300 coming on this year. So it's about considering the community that exists, and considering the community you want to exist, or that might exist. Where are we going with this? Oh, evolve and adapt, yeah. See, I had all these notes and all these things, and I just keep getting lost. But, if I go back to there, yeah. Strategic and sustainable platform for long-term use. There you go, there's my big point of the day. This is the one take-home. Alright. Events and all of those other things, installation, creative design, all those things we use in placemaking, as standalone concepts, consider the now and the right now and maybe the short-term, immediate future. And they're done to try and achieve an outcome that isn't based in the social level. And I mean, it's not considering the people for the most part, right? Yes, events are totally awesome for people and they go home and they feel good. But if it's like a music festival exists to bring music to the people. But when you consider it from running the events side of things, as much as that is a huge outcome for it, you've also got ticket sales. And you've got to book more bands, and you've got to make sure that you've got a venue for next year, and you have to book it again for next year. And there's all of those things that are in there, and it becomes an insular concept of this event. Like, I mean, Big Day Art is run by Campbell Smith, CRS Management, right? And he does that. That's his event. And the Big Day Art team comes back next time and they do it. Well, not anymore, but that was how they worked for so many years. The Big Day Art team worked to present Big Day Art each year. And so, that's that. While it's a long-term view of Big Day Art as a brand, it's not the long-term view of events in general. And so what I want to say is like this, we're about creating a strategic and sustainable platform for long-term use. So placemaking, we don't look at Silo Park Summer Festival and go, alright, well, summer season will start of December, end in the end of March, and we'll be happy with ourselves and we'll go and take a holiday for a few months. The reason we're in there and we're doing those things is to try and create a place, to try and create somewhere that people want to be in the long term. And like I say, we're not going to be there forever.
Do you own like this? Your company owns Silo Park then? Like, is that like, or do you have to rent it out to the government or like?
No, so it's owned and operated by Panuku Development Auckland, which was originally Waterfront Auckland. It gets confusing, but essentially Waterfront Auckland is the Auckland Waterfront Development Agency. They were tasked by the council to use all of this council-owned land to create it into places people can live, because we don't have many places to live in Auckland, and every other day in the newspaper you'll hear about an Auckland housing crisis, right, whatever you want to look at it as. They have certain outcomes in the sense of the long term, which is sell houses. Come back a few steps, and they wanted to create a space that people wanted to hang out at, in order for them to know that there's an area to be, in order for them to maybe want to live there, in order for them to sell houses. So we came in a few steps beforehand, and they put a tender process out there and said, hey, who wants to do cool stuff in this space? We want to see, for example, all of the things that we do. They kind of put those out as examples. We're like, those are the best ideas. Possibly why we got it, because we made them feel good. But Waterfront Auckland owns and facilitates that space. They stump up a bit of cash at the start of the season to get it going. The rest of it's managed through sponsorship, partnership, market, stalls, bar sales, all of the things. So the area is owned by Waterfront Auckland, and it continues to be, and it will be forever, all the ground. But we come on and we deliver all of the things. Yeah, yep.
I'm so confused when you say there's no set methodology. I'm like,
Yeah.
do you not just sit down, so like you don't have a set plan for every single event, but would you sit down and discuss?
Of course. I mean, there's a
plan? It's like
I mean, there's a process for sure. Like there's things that we always have to consider.
budget.
Budgets and refuse and power and all of those things. But it depends. Like if the tool we're using to engage that space is an event, then yeah, we'll apply a bit of event concept. But it depends, like who are the people? You have to consider all of those things. And maybe an event isn't right. Like we get people all the time coming to us being like, hey, can you do outdoor movies in our space? It's like, why? You're 25 minutes drive from anybody. What else can we do? What else can we do that isn't drive-in movies? And we've walked away from a lot of people engaging with us to try and do, they just have it in their mind of one thing. And business associations are classic for that. Like business associations go, hey, the CBD's working really well, and here in, I don't know, the Point Chevalier Business Association, we're like, man, we really want to capture some, you guys got like all of those people come down on the weekend, let's do that here. And it's like, it's not going to work. It doesn't work to do a Smells Farm drive-in movie at the Point Chev business area. That's not relevant to the local community. You're just transplanting something.
That's what I mean. So obviously you'd sit down and have a discussion about what would be the appropriate, I mean, not perfect event.
Yeah,
you know,
ideally.
People.
Yeah. And like we also work, so we do that sort of thing, but we also work in the conversation and sometimes not in the delivery. So like we work in our like consultancy format, which is like show up in a suit kind of thing, instead of work boots and high vis. But the idea is that we sit down and we go, right, there's a vision involved, like recently working with just out of Wellington, and they're talking about when they install fibre into the area and what they can do and how they can use the story of the fibre being installed to engage the community, which is a real abstract, real weird thing. And like there's not going to be an event that does that, right? It's all about, for that particular project, it's all about installation, and it's all about creating something that people can see and engage with and hear about and talk about and all of those things for the community, but not just to celebrate the fact that there's fibre, because it's like that happens one time.
It's annoying because, you know, they have road cones everywhere, like we did in our town, it's got nothing.
Exactly. But it's like, it's a one-time thing, right? It's a process that like starts, you have fibre, it's done. You've got it forever. How do you make it a long-term conversation? How do you make the introduction of fibre, which is all about innovation and less frustrating video downloads and that, how do you make that something that the community can engage with? And how do you make that something that is relevant to everybody in the community? Taking ages on this stuff, though.
That's such a cool job.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
That's me, yeah, I'm done.
That's cool.
Thanks so much, that's awesome. Cool.
Sorry, may I just interrupt? So what are you getting really excited about?
Well, I just like how the focus is people,
Yeah.
and the answer isn't always just like an abstract product or an event.
No.
You know, that's like, normally from what I hear, it's like there's a process, there's a method. Like I've worked kind of in the health industry where they think that, you know, they have this long-term plan, and been to council meetings and they think they have this long-term plan, but you know, they only every now and then will engage with a little bit of the public that they should be engaging. So I just really like that it's for the people.
Well, otherwise I just feel like it's so inflicting. Like personally, like not fresh concept view, but like personally, I just feel like it's so inflicting to say,
this is your answer.
like, oh hey, great example, like we're working on Urbanesia, what was previously known as Southside Arts Festival, we're working on Urbanesia. And there are a lot of different community groups and venues and things that exist who are a huge part of the programming of Urbanesia and a huge part of what's going to happen, but they all sort of go, oh yeah, no, we do this, it's cool. And it's like, oh yeah, cool, why do you do that?
Right.
Oh, because we did it last year. And it's like, oh, why did you do it last year? Oh, because it seemed like a good idea. Oh, how many people came? 40. 40 people came. And it's like, oh yeah, awesome, that's really good numbers. Who were those people? Oh, just locals. And it's like, were they? Were they locals? Or did they travel in here because they got the Southside Arts Festival flyer in their house 30k away and decided, oh, that sounds interesting. What happened to the locals? What about your community? And it's so inflicting. It's like, I'm just going to do this thing and people are going to love it. And if they don't, well, it was raining. Right? It was raining. I love that. It was raining. Auckland is hate going outside when it's raining.
It also feels like it solves a lot of community issues as well, because you can find the right people that you're making happy, then you know they're doing happy stuff rather than the opposite.
No, that's awesome, and I'm glad that what I'm saying makes sense, because it's good. That's what I was trying to say. So thank you for summing it up in a more succinct manner. That's great. That's the quote that I would say is interesting. I wrote this. That's why I said it. The idea of digital tools and expanding your conversation and making it wider and not letting phones and Facebook and Twitter be an excuse for people not connecting. Because it's not. You will go on Instagram and you hit up that little notifications tab and see how many people have engaged with what you do. Sure, it may be not genuine, maybe it's not actually something you did, maybe it's a exaggerated sense of what you're about, maybe you're just sharing some brand's thing to win some makeup, right? But you are still able to use those tools to engage with somebody else. And we like using the on-the-ground tools through the digital place to expand the conversation to other people. And that's like, look up digital placemaking and see how it doesn't exist, which is frustrating as all hell, because it's like so obvious. It's the ones and zeros version of things that have been happening for so long in the placemaking realm. Who does it? Who does placemaking? At the moment, Fresh Concept is the only company in New Zealand that we can find that specialises in placemaking, which is terrifying, because it's like, in so many of the projects that are brought to us by groups like this, so like I say, these are public entities for the most part, right? Not this one so much, they're kind of slightly less than public entities, certainly less than public entities now, but Heart of the City Business Association. These people, they put a tender out there to say, hey, we want to use some sort of what seems to be like a placemaking reality in our space to bring people together. And it's like, who do you think is pitching for this stuff? And what are their focuses? Like it's us, yes, Fresh Concept, we pitch for it, and we're successful in some of the things we pitch for, and we're unsuccessful in others. But there are event companies who will be saying, oh, we can do that, yeah, for sure. And that's great, because they can, but it's like, what's their...
But they're after the money, not the
Sometimes, like I don't want to just... I
Yeah.
can't stand up here and bag like
Oh,
event companies, you know. But exactly, and they come from a realm that isn't necessarily human focused. They come from a realm where they produced MasterCard's VIP report